5. This is the Arlington County Board of Equalization hearing. All 5 members are present, and there are 5 cases on the agenda. The first case is RPC 34008020 at 200 12th Street South and 1200 Crystal Drive. Mr. Warren, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to the board. Good morning, Chris. I'm going to start on page 33 of 94 of the county's response memo, which is our summary of facts. This is the Crystal Gateway 4 office building located at 200 12th Street South. It's comprised of 2 individual tax RPCs. It's currently assessed at $43,759,800 or $216 a square foot. And the value we're asking for today from the board is $34,848,700 or $172 a square foot. The subject property is a 15-story office building located in the Crystal City National Landing submarket. It's an older building, originally built in 1985, and has 202,761 square feet of leasable space, and is a short walk from the Crystal City Metro Station. The main issues and the reason we filed this appeal that we'll be discussing, taking the majority of my time here to present, is with regard to the vacancy and the county's lack of a DFL adjustment that was made in their original assessment. This property, and you'll see if we go back now to page 3, the county's office income and expense summary, you'll find the county's original assessment on column D and then their test column on column G. In their initial analysis for gross potential income, they applied a $38 per square foot rental rate for the occupied space and $33 a square foot for the vacant space. Now, if you look at the historicals and the historical gross potential income that's been reported at the subject property, it has been fairly stable dating back from the 2021 to 2023 reporting years. In 2024, you see a significant dip in gross potential income, and reason being they lost a major tenant that took up 4 floors, 50,000 square feet of space in late 2024. So the 2024 vacancy increased again on September 1 is when that tenant vacated from 22.5% to 47% as of 1/1/2025, the date of valuation. That vacancy is still there as of currently. There are no tenants or prospects expected to backfill that space in anytime soon. Upon reviewing that financial information and the increased vacancy, you can see in the test column on column G, the county increased their occupied rental rates from $38 a square foot up to $44 a square foot, and their vacant rental rate from $33 a square foot up to now to $40 a square foot. So where you're seeing the actual gross potential income at the property, at the subject property, decreasing over $600,000 year over year from 23 to 24, you see the county's gross potential income increase substantially over $1.2 million from the original assessment into their test column. Now, with regard to the vacancy, as we spoke of, the vacancy as of 1/1/2025 was 47%, or 95,619 square feet. That tenant, Management Systems, they did vacate 4 floors, which was 50,069 square feet. The county's original income analysis on column D estimated total vacancy of 22%, or 45,330 square feet of vacancy. Now, in their test column, in that original analysis, due to that estimate of vacancy at 22%, they applied a 23% vacancy rate, as indicated in their vacancy guidelines for properties with 22% vacancy. In their test column, you see they do revise that to 28%, which is what we were recommending in our analysis as well. And in their initial analysis, you'll see that they were not taking any lease-up deduction. Now, in their test column, they are applying that lease-up deduction, and it is in line with what we were asking for. But roughly $5 million was taken off below the line to account for that excess vacancy of 47%. The operating expenses, the county was using $10.15 in their initial analysis. They revised that to $9.75. we were applying a 3-year average of $9.77 a square foot, which is in line. Again, the big difference here is with regard to the what we feel is an overestimation following review of the financials that were provided with the appeal with regard to gross potential income and increasing the gross potential income significantly from the $7,909,000 to $9.1 million in their test column. After reviewing that financial information and seeing that the vacancy actually increased from 22 to 47%. Looking at the 1/1/2025 rent roll, and assuming that parking income and pass-throughs remain similar to what was reported in 2024, the expected effective gross income for calendar year 2025 would be somewhere around $5.3 million, which is, again, about $1.4 million below what the county is currently estimating in their test column. Again, when the county is applying their test column, we've heard it in previous cases saying that they're trying to project as of 1/1/2025, as of the date evaluation, what this property will project in future income. Well, right now the property is 47% vacant and is expected to bring in roughly $5.3 million. That NOI, if you apply the operating expenses that were most recently reported in 2024, they're looking at an estimated NOI reported in 2025 of $3.4 million. The county's test column NOI of $4.7 million is significantly higher, and that's a roughly $570,000 increase in total NOI from their original analysis to now their test column, again after reviewing the financials that we had provided. With regard to the NOI, again, it all has to do with the vacancy. You see it was reporting a fairly stable NOI from 2021 to 2023 calendar years, and then you see it fall pretty significantly by approximately $600,000 most recently in 2024. That was with that tenant that vacated 50,000 square feet of space, occupying their space roughly for the majority of the year up until September 1st of 2024. So what we're asking for from the board today is consideration. The county's test column, we don't think there's any information that's been provided that would justify an increase in the vacant office rental rate in their initial analysis that was being applied at $33 a square foot to now increase it to $40 a square foot. If you bring this property up in CoStar, the asking rent that's listed on CoStar is $34.50 a square foot, which is in line, and it's also in line with what we've seen the county apply for vacant office rental space in the Crystal City National Landing submarket. We've brought a number of cases, similar cases of older office buildings in the same submarket. Again, these are all under the same ownership. I don't believe one of them has had the county apply a $40 per square foot vacant rental rate in their analysis or in their test column.
All right, Mr. Warren, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chikas for the county, please.
Yes, ma'am. So I think we've seen something similar to this a couple weeks ago in the regards. A lot of talk about column G and the test column, whereas when we look at column D and compare column H from the owner themselves, we can see that we're actually $50,000 lower than what the owner themselves puts out as a projected NOI for year 2025. When you look and focus upon column D and compare it to either column E or F, you can see that we missed the mark almost across the board. We were some $800,000 lower than what was achieved for effective gross. We over projected by $150,000 for operating expenses and ended up some $940,000 lower than what was achieved in year 2024. As we do with all cases, give due diligence and perform a review of assessment, and to include this new information that was received with the 2025 appeal. That would include the 2024 income statement as well as the rent roll. When we're looking at the rent roll, we can see that's what was applied for the test. There's really virtually no projections made that's off kilter. The $44 that was mentioned is pulled directly from the rents that are being achieved. And again, please note that this is also from 2024's information. This is no consideration of the 2 or 3% that each tenant is expected to receive as far as an increase in their rental rates. So the rents that are actually listed there are from 2024. There's virtually no projection forward for 2025. In regards to the idea of using a $34.50 for vacant space, I believe the appellant misquoted in the sense that what's being listed on CoStar is for sublet space, not for direct space from the owner. I think, as we all know, and the board knows, sublet space is going to be cheaper because it's sublet from the original tenant. In the case of looking at JBG's own marketing for their website for this particular property, they're actually asking $1 more than we're listing for our vacant space. So it is supported by not only the marketplace, but by the owner themselves. Again, when we refocus on the idea that the original assessment was missed the mark by, again, it was $900,000 from what was achieved in year 2024, and again is even lower than the appellant, it really comes down to cap rate, as we've talked about a number of times this year. We don't believe this property is one that the board would look at as making adjustments to the cap rate based on not only its history and with the strength of the current tenants in place through year 2028, 2029, and beyond. It's also, again, as was noted by the owners themselves, that this is well located within a half mile of Metro, just off of Route 1. So again, access into DC, into other parts of Arlington. Based on this, and again, I would point out, based on last year's assessment, this is actually a negative 9.6% drop in value, which is much more in touch with reality as opposed to the negative 28% drop that the owner's requesting. In fact, I would point out, even with a test column, which again is much more in line with what's been actually achieved at the history of the last 4 years, that would still call for a negative 7% drop in value year over year. That being said, we do believe that the county should be confirmed at the original value of $43,759,800. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? Mr. Yates.
One to the appellant, and I did not dig through the numbers completely below in your material, but you are it's listing on the in column F for 24, $61 a square foot. Where's that coming from? I mean, what caused that? I mean, it's the numbers there, the 6 million, 6.5 million, but.
If I may, sir, that may be better addressed to us. That was our number.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's. I don't believe that's accurate.
Well, it is accurate in the sense that it's taking the office income, which is actual, and then divided by the NLA. So in other words, it's recognizing the space that was filled per the documents that are turned in, and then you divide that by the income. Since it's actuals, we can address it specifically to the NLA.
That's what I saw, but I guess the question I am having was, part of that is the tenant that left 3 floors, did they buy it? Because I couldn't find anything on it. Did they buy out of a lease, or did they, is that what kicked that number?
I don't believe there was any one-time fee that was on there that was reported on the survey that was submitted. I can go back and check. It is in the package.
Yeah, that I couldn't find anything. That's what I wanted to verify, that it wasn't the F is
there was no one-time lease termination fee.
Okay. Wow.
Any other questions? No? Okay, Mr. Cheekis, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Yes, ma'am. So again, just to reiterate, on page 5 of the packet, you'll see the rent roll that's displayed, which 100% supports the per dollar square foot rate for occupied space. Again, the vacant space was echoed by the listing for the property itself. When you compare that with the original assessment in column D, you can see that we're off by almost $6 per square foot on the occupied side, and again, about $7 on the vacant space. Given that we're some $900,000 lower than what was achieved in year 2024, and even $50,000 lower than what's projected by the owner themselves, we do believe that the county confirmed at a $43,759,800 valuation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Warren, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yes. Again, we don't feel there's any justification for an increase the county set these vacant rental rates for this subject property after reviewing all the I&E survey data that was submitted, set that for $33 a square foot, and then after reviewing the financials that were submitted, saw that the vacancy increased from 22 to 47%, and then subsequently increased the vacant rate to $33 to $40 a square foot. Looking at sales, you've seen a number of sales. A lot of them have transacted after the first of the year. However, you're seeing a lot of these sales of older office buildings with high vacancy transact at around $100 a square foot. Now, not a lot of them have transacted in this particular submarket, but 1320 North Courthouse sold recently in July 25 for $90 a square foot. 4350 North Fairfax Drive at $102 a square foot. Those properties were had both significant vacancy, 50% vacancy, and 50 or 60% vacant. There's $122 a square foot at 3601 Wilson Boulevard.
Okay.
There's a lot of support for.
Okay, your minute has expired. Thank you. Okay, it's just among the board. Here, folks. Mr. Panoranda.
I'm okay with the current assessment the way it is. It is, I think, low compared to, if Mr. Chica said use higher rates on the rental. I did a couple of tests. I increased the expenses, and I also decreased the rental rate on the occupied space to $43. But I still come up with a higher value, $44 million. So, based on that, I'm okay with it.
Well,
Mr. Yates?
I looked at maybe applying the vacancy, but at the same time, the GPI and the numbers on it clearly offset that. I'm fine with the current assessment.
Okay, all right. You make a motion?
Sure, I'll move that we confirm the assessment at $43,759,000.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at $43,759,800. Thank you both.
Thank you all.
Okay, next we have Ms. Shuttlesworth for the county and Mr. Harmon. Okay, the next RPC case 2 is RPC 1500502A at 1919 North Beach Street, 1947 North Ewell Street. Mr. Harmon, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Annetta, good morning. So this property, Drea, did increase the assessment from the January 1 value to the current value that's proposed today. That increase is a direct result of the appeal being filed with the board. It increased from the initial assessed value of $95,259,300 up to the value that Drea has presented to you today at $99,011,800 as a result of the appeal and due to Drea claiming an alleged mistake of fact regarding this property's location. Now, as I stated a couple of weeks ago when we first heard this case, and I went through my full 8 minutes before it got tabled, we do not believe Drea has the authority to enact this change unilaterally as a result of the appeal. The alleged mistake was only discovered as a result of the board appeal. Now, as I stated previously, once an appeal is filed at the board, Drea must follow specific steps outlined in the board statute to request an increase due to an alleged mistake of fact, as they have done here. The purpose of this process, this statute, is to avoid appeals having a chilling or filing an appeal and then the county just changing the assessment and having a chilling effect on taxpayers' appeal rights. That's why the legislature went through the process of enacting a specific statute that says if this fact pattern does arise, you have to go to the board and request the increase. And that makes sense. Appeal rights are enshrined in the Constitution, and the legislature wants to protect that. In this case, the appeal was filed, an alleged mistake of fact was discovered as a result of the appeal, and the board statute process controls. Now, the deputy county attorney's interpretation of the statutes in question effectively nullifies that board statute. The deputy attorney's opinion states there are essentially two paths to correct a mistake of fact. Option 1 has several steps and requires board approval. which approval is not certain. The county would have to come in here and argue for the increase. Or the county attorney argues there's another path. You can just do it. No further steps, no review necessary, just change it. So obviously one of those is much simpler and more certain where the outcome is known than the other. So why would anyone go through the process outlined in the board statute of providing notice, arguing for the increase, having to achieve the increase at the board? Why would they do that if you could just do it? So that's why the statute, I say, effectively nullifies the board statute. And that's exactly what we've seen in practice with the county. In the 6 years I've been presenting cases here, I don't believe I've ever seen the county try to come to the board and request an increase due to an alleged mistake of fact. So the county attorney's interpretation, unfortunately, does invalidate the other statute. I don't expect the board to rule on these statutes today, but for the record, suffice it to say the statutory construction does favor an interpretation that doesn't effectively nullify another statute, which is what the county attorney has done. If the legislature meant to nullify that other statute, they would have had to specifically say so. Since they didn't do that, the county attorney's interpretation is simply doesn't align with judicial interpretation. Now with that, Drea did again increase the assessment as a result of the appeal from the initial value by nearly $4 million by alleging that the property is actually closer to the metro than they had previously known. This property, as background, has not been assessed as within a half mile of the metro previously. It appears an alleged mistake of fact is due to the way the county measures the distance to the metro for this year. For this alleged mistake of fact, the county measured not from the apartment building located at 1947 North Ewell. So you'll notice there's two addresses listed on this property, 1947 North Ewell and 1919 North Veach. The apartment building, the big tower, is at 1947 North Ewell. You'll see in the county's write-up that they did not use 1947 North Ewell. They used 1919 North Veach. Now, why is this important? I'll share my screen. This is Google Maps. Google Maps shows 3 different routes from the apartment building at 1947 North Ewell to the closest metro at Courthouse. You can, I hope it's large enough, but it's 0.5 miles, 0.5 miles, and 0.5 miles. So all 3 routes are 0.5 miles. Now, is that rounded up? Is that rounded down? Is it 0.49? Is it 0.51? You know, this is a major issue. This has a $4 million impact on the assessed value of this property. Google Maps does not, unfortunately, go out to a second decimal, but a little bit of a older technology. MapQuest does go out to a second decimal. You can see MapQuest from the apartment building at 1947 North Ewell to the metro is 0.51 miles. So, you know, that's the request we have of the board. Remove the mid-year adjustment that the county has made as a result of the appeal. Measure from the actual apartment buildings at 1947 North Ewell, which are up here on point A. The county measured from down here closer to the metro. The cap rate adjustment that they had made was due to those market rate units. Those market rate units are at 1947 North Ewell. Now, in addition to it not being within a half mile of a metro, the county's metro proximity criteria is not supported by any market data or any studies that the county has conducted or provided. It's simply another example of just, you know, it sounds right, so let's apply it. So we don't have any data saying there is a premium paid for properties within a half mile of a metro. What we do have, this is the Corpex Realty Advisors expert study that Arlington County DREA did commission this year. This is a section called Impact of Proximity to Metro on Cap Rates. This actually finds there's no change due to proximity to the metro. The highlighted portion here is the conclusion. The data indicates no premium for assets within the metro corridor on average. Now, this is related. This report was made for office properties. It's reasonable to infer a similar conclusion for multifamily properties, especially given that there's no support there's no data in support of the county's position on this. There is data that contradicts it. The cap rate the county has applied to that increase is just 4.3%. 4.3% base cap rate. This is extremely low. This is not seen in the market data. We're on calls with many investors, many market participants week after week. We tell them 4.3% and they do a spit take. You know, that's just not seen in the market for this type of asset. And you can see that when you look at all three major surveys of market investors that the county says they relied on to come to their conclusion of the cap rate, PwC, RERC, CBRE, they all come in at minimum cap rates of 5.2%. The county's applied cap rate for this adjustment is 90 basis points below that. Now, we have yet to hear exactly how the county got to these cap rates. How did they get to a 4.3% cap rate for this property when all of those surveys, when comparable sales all show 5% as the low end there? It appears that the county did list some sales that they say they derive the cap rate from. However, if you look at all the comparable sales properties with more than 20 units, none of them are below a 5. So it looks like the county relied on sales of properties with fewer than 10 units to get that 4.3% cap rate. It's simply not supported. Ultimately, first request, we request the board remove the mid-year adjustment made as a result of the appeal. Second request is we ask that an actual market cap rate be imputed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shuttleworth, please.
Yes, good morning, board. Good morning, Jordan. So this is a mid-rise apartment building. It was built in 2014. It includes 198 residential units, out of which 11 are designated as committed affordable. The property also features over 16,000 square feet of retail space, and it is located within half mile from the courthouse metro station. The assessed value for 2025, corrected via own motion, is at $99,011,800. The property was acquired in November 2021 for $106 million. The amenities offered at the property include community center, fitness room, outdoor pool, barbecue area, pet grooming station, and bike storage. The retail portion is occupied by Mom's Organic Market. Moving on to the summary sheet. As we can see, the 2021 I&E data reflects only 1 month of operations. The 2023 and 2024 I&E show combined figures for both apartments and retail. The appellant's pro forma also shows consolidated figures. In our test columns F through F3, we separated 3 components, and we used the applicable 2025 guidelines for each component. A couple important notes here. Our combined NOI used in the 2025 assessment is lower than the NOI reported by the appellants in 2024. Our OPEX used in 2025 valuation was much higher than the OPEX reported by the appellants. We still included the test columns for transparency, allowing for clear breakdown for each component. Our projected cumulative NOI presented in column F2 closely aligns with the 2024 NOI reported by the appellants. The property also reported lower vacancy and concessions. They were at 3%. They were below our stabilized vacancies and concessions. The NOI increased by 11%. Now, the property, just like Mr. Jordan stated, does have 2 points of entry. So I ran the Google Maps. Even this morning, I ran it twice for 1919 Ewell Street and 1947. And I just wanted to share my screen for a second, and then I will let Deidre speak, as she wanted to add some comments as well. So can the board see my map?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I did test 1947 address. As the board can see, 2 different routes were produced by Google Maps. Each one shows 0.5 mile radius. So I will leave it at that. And I will just add, if the board haven't already, I strongly encourage board to run the Google Maps as well. Thank you. Deidre?
Thank you, Annetta. I just wanted to make a couple of notes. Under the statute 58.1, 3981B, which is referenced in the letter from the county attorney, the assessor may correct an assessment if it's found to be less than the proper amount. And corrections can be made with or without a petition from the taxpayer. And this includes properties that are under review. And this property was actually under review. And it includes, the statute includes anything that involves an adjustment that's based on valuation methodology and such as the cap rate. This is
I think you're frozen.
Yeah, I think Deidre froze there. Sorry. Are you back, Deidre?
I'm not sure. Can you see
Yeah,
me?
we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize for that. It might be the rain outside. The original cap rate for this property was listed as outside of the metro corridor. It had been listed incorrectly for the past several years. This correction was made this year. Although the property was under review, this correction was made this year. And any property that's under review, we look at all of this. We look at the cap rate, we make sure that the rents are correct, the correct vacancy is used. So this correction was necessary due to this appeal. And the correction was based on accepted appraisal practices. So I just want to say that this correction made this property now uniform with other properties that are located within the metro corridor because it was not equitably assessed with properties that were within the corridor. That's the only thing I wanted to add. So thank you. Am I
Okay,
still frozen?
No.
Okay.
So is that it for the county? I didn't know.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, questions from the board? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, for the county, the appellant showed another example on MapQuest, I believe, and it was over 0.5 miles away. Does the county use Google Maps? Is that the standard when calculating the cap rate, or is it
Yes.
manufactured, or how does that work?
Yes, so we
We-
always practice
I'm
the
sorry,
same.
Netta.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm
Deidre.
sorry, Netta. She was getting ready to answer that. The process that Anetta and actually myself, as well as Chris Chicas, we had 3 appraisers to pull the same maps to ensure that we were that this property was within the corridor, which is the same process that we use for all properties to determine whether they're in the metro corridor or not. So this process was consistent. We use Google Maps typically.
Okay, and to follow up on that, the appellant mentioned that there was an extra decimal point on the MapQuest example. Let's say there was an extra decimal point in the Google Maps system, and it was 5.1 miles out. Would that still be considered within the metro corridor, or would that push it above the distance?
Yes, it would
I
still,
think it was, yeah.
yeah, it would still be included
So-
as a metro.
0.51 would still be in the metro corridor. Based on your guidelines.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be in this instance because we look at the route. If you look at the route that the MapQuest was showing you, it goes down and then comes up the street versus going down to the elevator. When you're getting into decimal places and comparing that to, is it walkable? What's the walk score? Is it rational to put this in the corridor or not? We do consider that, but in looking at the map that Jordan displayed, there's several routes that you could take to different entry points in that metro. And in this instance, in reviewing all the information, it fell within our guidelines being in the metro corridor and walkable.
Okay, to follow up on that, and I think it came up during the testimony when Mr. Harmon had tried to present this case earlier before the county attorney got involved. But what is the county's policy from a standpoint of looking at the distance? Because I thought there was some testimony that the county was going like through a park, a walkable, as opposed to when you do the distances for all these buildings, is it the drive route? Is it the walk route? What
It's
route?
just the
Walking
walk
route.
And there were several routes. We mentioned one that cut through private property, but there's other routes that does not cut through private property and goes straight down to the metro.
And the reason for this is we are trying to determine a walkable distance for someone that's able to live within a half-mile radius of a metro and walk there. So it's not using a driving system.
So
It
the
is
map that
walking.
Ms. Shuttlesworth put up that shows the 0.5 is not cutting through private property.
No, it's not.
Okay, just
We
wanted,
made sure to do that. We made sure to run one so that it would not cut through private property.
okay, all right,
That's exactly
that
what
was,
I said.
okay, all right, any other questions? Mr. Hoffman, no? Okay, Ms. Shuttlesworth, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yeah, so this case did contain a factual error which was corrected through own motion. There was another case that was corrected via own motion, and the correction actually resulted in a value decrease, and that case was withdrawn yesterday. In this case, the correction unfortunately resulted in an increase. When you enter the property's legal address in Google Maps, the search results clearly state that the property is located within 0.5 mile radius from the courthouse metro. And our NOI used in 2025 valuation was below the NOI reported by the appellants. I asked the board to confirm the 2025 assessment of $99,011,800. Thank you.
And again, I just want to note that this correction does put this property in equalization with other properties within the metro corridor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harmon, can you take a minute to wrap up, sir?
Yes, thank you. So in hindsight, it was a mistake to withdraw that case yesterday. I should have known the county would bring it up today. They didn't actually reduce it. The final assessment on that matched the worksheet that we had received. They corrected an error on their website is what they corrected. That wasn't an actual reduction. It was the same as we had initially received. This property, they showed a map from the actual apartment building showing 0.5 miles. Now we hear there's a line in the sand time and again from the county. January 1, anything that's known then. Any tenants that are in there and vacating January 2nd are treated as in there for the full year. Now we're hearing, 0.51 is within half a mile of the metro. It's not. We need to draw that line in the sand. Finally, we never heard the county give any support for this half-mile radius. Intuitively, sure, it sounds good, but we're not assessing based on intuition. We're assessing based on data. The data we have shows there's not a correlation between metro proximity and cap rate. The final cap rate, 4.3%, not seen anywhere in the market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's just among the board.
Well, I,
Mr. Yates.
the half mile, I understand is a number that's pulled. However, I live over 3/4 of a mile from our metro, and I have a lot of neighbors that walk to the metro. So I'm not sure the half mile, in some cases, shouldn't be longer. I mean, I don't think there's a number there that's, and some people may get an apartment with the idea it's close enough to the metro to walk. And that distance is, maybe the county needs to do a study.
Mr. Penrose.
I agree. I mean, it is so close, we're talking about less than a quarter of a mile, just a few more steps. And I think, the town has provided information that it's really can be proven the other way. And I'm okay with increasing the cap rate to non-metro on that, on the apartment portion. I think the county, when they did the reassessment, they used proper cap rates also for the affordable units. So the only thing I did is just reduce the assessment on the apartment side. I increased the cap rate to the non-metro. I come up with 98,289,265. Reduces a little bit, but it's not as much as what the plan is requesting.
So you're going with the non-metro cap rate.
I'm going with the non-metro because I think it's just so close, and it's been the county has been using that for several years. Is this if we were talking about half a mile or something, I'll be more inclined to agree with it. But to me, it's very close. It's just too close to decide which way to run, and I'm okay to give benefit to the appellant on this one.
I would probably stick with the original cap rate that was used. I don't necessarily like the, because we've seen other cases in the past where we've said, oh, this should be higher, or, you know, maybe the county gave them too much here. So I would be in favor of keeping the original cap rate and just moving forward next year.
All right, Mr. Hoffman?
I hope maybe we can get rid of the two different cap rates for apartments next year. At least if Corpaz is saying it makes no difference, then why is it? Like, I could see where the rents would be higher if you're closer to Metro, but like, then rents are higher, right? Your income is higher. It produces a higher value for the building. Why would there also be a higher cap rate? Like, I think an investor buying this building is looking at, is it stabilized? What's the renewal rate, and what's the, you know, what are the rental rates, and what's the income on the building? They could care less if it's out in the far left corner of Arlington, 10 miles away from Metro. If it's crushing it year over year, they're gonna invest in that property. So, I mean, all that said, I'm with you guys. I would go back to the original number because it's already an increase. But you know, that's just my opinion. We can make an adjustment next year, and then everybody would be on the same cap rate, Metro, non-Metro, hopefully. I don't like cutting this thing down to like, is it an extra 14 steps above a half a mile or not? You know, the walk score is significantly lower than other buildings that are closer to Metro. You can look at the marketing materials, and they're really not playing up Metro at all, which tells me that the renters going in there are looking for I-66 access. But again, there's value to that, right? There's, you know, so I'd be okay with the original number.
I think it's a valid point that it increases rents. It may not have the same impact on cap also.
Can you move that? Yeah, okay. Somebody want to make a motion then?
Yeah, I think I have the original number correct.
What is it?
Is it 95,260,300?
I had 95, 259, 300.
259. Okay.
Can you state that again?
95, 259, 300.
That's fine, that's close. Because I did another calculation just using the changing the cap rate on the original. And I mean, it brings up to about the same, 95, 361. But yeah, that's fine. And then.
Okay, so this is actually a decrease then.
Mhm.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna move that we confirm the original 2025 assessment from the county at 95,260,300.
Wait a minute, 259.
Oh, excuse me, yeah, 259.
300.
Yes,
There will be a reduction.
And so it's a reduction
okay.
to 95,259,300. Okay, do I have a second? Mr. Hoffman is a second. All in favor? Aye, opposed. Okay. So it's unanimous. The assessment's reduced to the original of 95,259,300.
Based on, are you putting it based on anything other than just being?
So the rationale just to bring it back to
Oh, bring it back to the original cap rate.
the non-metro.
Yeah, the non-metro.
Okay. So that's a reduction. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We have Mr. Peralta and Mr. Harmon. Okay, so next case is RPC 1402914 at 4001 Fairfax Drive. Mr. Harmon asked to withdraw this yesterday. I assume there's no objection, Mr. Peralta?
No objection.
Okay, I'll move to accept the withdrawal. Do I have a second? Mr. Penaranda has seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Withdrawal is accepted. Thank you. And we bring Ms. Shuttlesworth back. Oh, and we have a new, Mr. Harmon, thank you. He's finishing. Ms. McCraw.
I'll
Yeah,
be
this one,
presenting
and
this
it's
case.
I'm sorry?
I'll be presenting this case.
Okay, and can you state your name for the record?
Emmett Kim.
Is it Kim?
Kim.
Kim.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You have something on? Okay, we just need to make sure we got authorization for you to present the case.
It's going to take me a few minutes.
Okay. Ms. Shuttlesworth, do you know if Mr. Kim?
I have not met Mr. Kim before. I don't think I had any
work-
cases with him.
I work with Ryan Tax Ryan LLC under Liba.
I
I'll be
have
handling-
McCraw as the agent.
Yeah, I'm taking over this case for her today. She had a conflict.
Yeah, well, generally speaking, we'd have a notice of that. With all due respect, I just don't know who you are, and so I don't. Mr. Dubay,
Yeah.
what do you want to do here? He's an employee of the firm?
Yeah, we're fine with if he represents the case on our side.
Okay, all right, so.
I'll be
Mr.
presenting the next case as well. If that
That's
helps.
Okay, so, and what is your title?
Senior consultant with Ryan LLC.
Okay, so just let the minutes reflect that Emmett Kim, senior consultant for Ryan LLC, is presenting for Luba McCraw. No objection from county. Okay, next case is RPC 1700501 at 1530 Clarendon Boulevard. Mr. Kemp, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Thank you very much. The subject property is a Class A apartment building located at 1530 Clarendon Boulevard in the Roslyn submarket. The subject was built in 2013 and contains 474 total units, of which 55 are affordable. The subject also contains 10,625 square feet of retail space and 433 parking spaces. To derive our opinion of value, we use an income approach following along with the DREA 2025 apartment guidelines. If you look towards page 5 of the test sheet, you'll see our pro forma in columns G and G1. There's only a few changes we made here, the first of which were to the expenses. We adjusted upwards from the county's estimate of $10,281 per unit to the $10,779 per unit for calendar year 2024 based on the actuals. The next change we have is the cap rate. As I'm sure you've heard many times this year, we have adjusted upwards from the base cap rate of roughly 4.3% to align with market rates. Our indicated cap rate here, our indicated base cap rate is 5.25%. If you look towards page 94 of the BOE memo submitted, you'll see our band of investment calculation, which indicates this 5.25% base cap rate. At the bottom of this page, you'll see the PwC Mid-Atlantic Regional Apartment cap rates with a range of 5 to 6.5%, with a mean of 5.71%. Nowhere in the Mid-Atlantic region in the fourth quarter or third quarter of 2024 has a base cap rate below 5%. So we believe our 5.25 is justified and more than fair. We also have included a chart on the following page, page 94, showing the market cap rate and the increase that took place around mid-2021 when interest rates increased. As I'm sure you've heard many times this year, we have made the similar argument, asking for a cap rate for this Class A apartment building to 5.25%. So I'll leave it at that. The next adjustment we made was a deduction below the line for business personal property, totaling around $300,000. Without deducting this below the line, you're equating to double taxation on the property owner. So this is a necessary adjustment to make. There is a separate retail approach as well, where we increase the vacancy to 6%, up from the assessor's rate. I believe it was around 4%. Lost my. The next adjustment we made to the commercial rate was to increase the expense ratio to 16% of EGI. When you combine our two indicated values, you arrive at a total indicated value of $168,901,000 or $356,331 per unit, which is our requested assessment. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shuttlesworth, if you would tell us about the property, please.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Emmett provided a pretty good description of the property. I don't want to repeat his words. I just want to add that the property does offer several amenities, rooftop deck, pool, 2 fitness rooms, and business center. I did inspect this property 2 years ago on the appeal. Now, looking at the summary sheet, the financial data from 2021 through 2023 was reconstructed from the internal financials provided by the appellant. As the board can see, we excluded several capital expenses. Details are listed below, right beneath the summary spreadsheet. Some of these capital expenses included floor replacements, appliance replacements. Looking at the combined figures that were used by DREA in 2025 valuation, our NOI was below the NOI reported by the appellants. Also, our PGI and EGI were below the 2024 figures reported by the appellant. The potential rent reported in the past 4 years shows a positive trend. In 2024, the rents increased by over 3%. In prior years, we see a 4.5% and almost 6% increase. The appellants deducted over $300,000 for the personal property. However, we verified with the agent, no furnished units were being offered at the property. They are also projecting decline in NOI, while the property's income has been consistently trending upwards. So that is all. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from board members? No? Oh, Mr. Hoffman. Yes, sir.
This might be more for like Derek, but we got a property tax bill for our office building this year, personal property, and it was the lobby furniture. And so like if we were to sell our building at a certain cap rate and a price agreed to a new buyer, they're going to assume the office buildings, lobby, desk, and all that stuff is going to convey with it. So wouldn't the cap rate already reflect the value of that, minimal amount of lobby furniture, which I'm assuming is this 300,000 that they brought up at Sedona Slate, that, you're not going to tear out the lobby furniture and the foosball table and the amenity lounge, before you sell the building, right? So is this double taxation?
So we do not, so even when you perform the appraisal, you're supposed to separate the personal property. That should not be included in fair market value estimate.
But I mean, I would assume that like I'll ask Emmett. Like Emmett, your client got a bill for like $300,000 of value of personal property, right? Did it have any? Does it say what that is? Is that like furniture?
I could try to pull it up, but I have not seen an itemized list.
Okay.
I think it was listed as common area furniture.
So okay, so it makes sense. You've got a lobby, right? You've also got a fitness center. You've got fitness center equipment. This is all common area furniture, right? FF&E. But if you were to sell that building, all that would convey with the building. So the cap rate is already reflecting the value of the fitness equipment and the lobby furniture and all that. So it is double taxation. We just have a policy, I guess, that we ignore it in the county, or is the county going more aggressively towards assessing personal property in apartment buildings? Is that what's happening? I'm just trying to find out. If nobody has the answer, then I'm just going to support deducting it from the bottom line of the appeal.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that personal property number and get the actual figures from within the county to see if that is aligned, but we've deducted that on prior cases if it's there.
Yeah,
But
we
I'd
do
have
it
to
on
look at that
hotels because
specifically.
it's a huge number, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all the bedroom furniture and all that stuff.
I'm
Yeah,
actually looking right now.
And I've not
I'm looking
seen it
right now. I
on the
know
apartments.
this was and this information was included there.
I mean, think about if we had a data center here and these guys were getting a property tax bill for like $100 million of assessed value on property taxes, and then another $200 million for the building, which includes all the chips and everything that's in it. Fortunately, we don't have that problem.
Well, actually, they didn't
Yeah.
include it in the package. I thought they did. Normally they do, but not in this case.
If it helps,
So I don't know what type of furniture.
If you look on page 91 of the BOE submission.
Okay.
Should have it all listed out.
Non-computer equipment. This is the Arlington County website. They say you've got $297,950. Oh, that was 2023.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you gave us the number of like 300 something, and that was
there's an additional 6,791 on page 92 as well.
Okay. Yeah, so it's that some of those two numbers. Okay.
Mr. Dubay, can you clarify that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to verify that with the actual personal property tax bill, which I don't have on hand right now. So, but I've typically not seen that come off on the apartment side.
So in the past, the normal practice would be to make a deduction for furnitures if they were inside the units and they were tied to a income producing. But in this case, none of the units were furnished. This is probably lobby area furniture.
It's a pretty big number. So can somebody reach out to the treasurer's office and get this?
We wouldn't be able to produce that immediately, but we could confirm that, yes.
Or confirm it when? I guess.
We would have to postpone the case so that we can get that information and confirm it.
I will follow up on that.
to postpone.
I guess we-
Sorry?
I think we need to just do it. You guys want to-
But do we want to defer this? Are there any questions?
No, we finish everything.
Are we in questions? Are we in? Questions?
Just us.
Because they did the write-ups.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
It's just, it's,
Right, okay, all right, so let's finish questions. We'll go to, it's between us and then make a decision. Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, Ms. Shuttlesworth, if you take a minute, please, to wrap up.
Yes, so this is not the first time we're reviewing this case. Typically what this appellant does, they always include deduction below the line for furniture and equipment. And I personally processed this case 2 years ago, and we did not allow the deduction. And we did not allow it for any other property they used the deduction for. So this is a standard practice. We do not allow deductions for personal property. Our combined PGI, EGI, and NOI in 2025 valuation were below the figures reported by the appellants. This is clearly a cap rate issue. Again, the board heard this argument many times this year. Our cap rates are supported by the third quarter investor publications, such as CBRE, PwC, and RERC. The multifamily sales that occurred in 2024 within Arlington County produced the unloaded cap rate range from 4% to 5.8%. And
Okay,
I asked the board to confirm the assessment. Thank you.
okay, Mr. Kim, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, thank you very much. If you could look at page 96 and 97 of the BOE memo, here we include a chart ranging from fourth quarter 2021 to fourth quarter 2024 from PwC Real Estate Investor Surveys, which indicates a cap rate increase of 113 basis points over that period. At the same time, Arlington County has only increased cap rates 40 basis points. So it's evident that the county is off the mark in their cap rate, in their market cap rates. And then furthermore, I'd just like to reiterate that that $300,000 taken below the line is necessary to deduct the business personal property value out from the real estate value. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, it's just among the board. I'll just say, my concern is, especially, Ms. Shuttlesworth just made a statement that doesn't mean well, that they've done this before. It was in the case, and the fact that they didn't reach it and have it with them, and that's one of the arguments that the appellants make, and that's a problem for me. And we don't really allow appellants to say, oh, come back later and bring us more information. It's disappointing that the information is not here right now. So that's one of the issues that we're dealing with. So where's everybody else?
I was trying, so if it would, depending on which way that went, would it change my mind? As far as the bottom line number, it doesn't change for the cap rate. And I'm looking at the difference between their 24 and what the county's projected. I'm not sure it would change my mind.
I'm just curious as to how this is with other office buildings. Are there other office buildings getting a bill for personal property? And also, is it included in their assessment? So I wish I had more information on this. I don't know which way to vote, honestly.
Yeah, this is come up from our.
Yeah, but I think nobody, the department said the deductor was tied to the unit being furnished. And one way that I did make a reduction of almost that amount is that I did increase the expenses to the retail portion on and that actually reduces the assessment to 195,140,000. That's, pretty much a reduction of about 300,000.
All right, Mr. Hoffman, where are you?
I mean, I'm fine with Jose's number. I think the only thing that the county needs to look at is if the practice is going to be to bill apartment buildings and office buildings for common area furniture, fitness equipment, etc., as personal property, then Corpaz needs to adjust his cap rates to reflect that, because that when the cap rate is developed, it's being developed with the assumption that some of that personal property would convey with the building, because all of the comparable sales are conveying all that equipment, non-computer equipment, with the building. So all your cap rates are derived from your comparable sales. When you sell an apartment building and they record that it was, a 5.2 cap rate, that apartment building sold with all the fitness equipment in it.
Right.
Right.
And so you are double taxing these owners. So you need to go back and either adjust the cap rates or find some methodology to change it one way or another, right? One office wants to get their money in for the personal property. Another office wants to get their money in for the real property, but you can't do it on both sides at the same time. So I would just say we got to look at that. But I'm with Jose. If we want to make the adjustment with the other rationale for now, that's fine.
Okay,
All right.
all right. Mr. Penrose,
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that we reduce the assessment to 195,140,500 by increasing the expenses on the retail portion on the original assessment to 16%.
okay, we have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? Mr. Hoffman is a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. The assessment's reduced to 195,140,500 based on increasing the expenses on only the retail from the original assessment to 16%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it for Ms. Shuttlesworth, and now we have Ms. Ruskin. There we go. Okay, last case on the agenda is RPC 1500403G at 3115 Langston Boulevard. Mr. Kim, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Thank you very much. The subject property is a neighborhood commercial strip shopping center. It was built in 1964. It's located in Lion Village off the Lee Highway. The property has 49,139 square feet of rentable space. In early 2024, Giant, the longtime anchor tenant, vacated their space, which was 22,400 square feet. To derive our opinion of value, we performed an income approach following along with the 2025 commercial guidelines. If you turn to page 44 of the BOE memo, you will see our income approach against the county's evaluation. After looking at the revised workup, our rents are very similar. Our final PGI is very similar, coming out to around 2.7 million, a little above 2.7 million. So there's not much contention among the rents. We then apply the 10% vacancy and collection loss ratio, which is in line with what the county is using. Next, we increase the cap rate based off of a lease-up calculation we did below the line. If you turn to page 40, page 46 of the BOE memo, you'll see our lease-up calculations, which totals $3.5 million. We use TIs at $50 a square foot, market rents at $55 for a rent loss of 1.5 years. We then apply leasing commissions 5 years at 6%. Based off of discussions with the owner, they don't believe it is likely that a new tenant will occupy this space until at least mid-calendar year 2026, which is why we applied the 1.5 years for the rental loss figure. I think it is also worth noting the operating expenses that were in calendar year 2024 total of $535,000. It equates to 23.3% of EGI. The county is using on their test worksheet 13.7% of EGI. For this property type in the commercial guidelines, the indicated rate is 19%. We request that at the very least, the county increase this to 19% of EGI. However, we feel it's fair that the actuals of 23.3% be considered. With these adjustments and the increased cap rate based off of the lease up calculation done below the line, our indicated total value is $22,063,600 or $449 per square foot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Roskin for the county, please.
Yes, board members, before I get into my discussion, I need to point out a couple of errors on the summary page. First of all, you look at column D, I use darker color shading to identify what I apply the 10% vacancy and 15% for expenses. I did not put the shading over the grocer rent. It should be applied to it, okay? The numbers are correct. The 10% calculation is correct. Confirm that with the January 1 worksheet. Then the next one is column F. It says revised, it's actually a test, okay? So it's just a label that was misdone. And on the right-hand side of column F, when you look at the rent, the gross potential rent, that amount right there, the $54.54, that's incorrect. If you follow your, you follow down the bottom where I do the calculation for the rent loss, TI, and leasing commissions, you can see the amount, the correct amount that was used, okay? If you take the rent that was used and divide by the net leasable area, it comes out to the amount that you see down below for below the line adjustments. And then the last thing is Mr. Kim mentioned the 13.75% base. That's actually 15.5%, and that's been confirmed in the the attached test worksheet. So putting aside those corrections, I want to, this page is a little complicated. My apologies, but I had to put a lot of information in here. This particular owner submits actuals every year. As you can see, they don't report vacancy information at all. And so I'm trying to look at this and go, okay, what is the potential rent for this particular property? And so in the comments, I've attached a rent roll where I calculated what the average base rent should be for the other tenants, the retail tenants that do not include the grocer, okay? And that's listed on the comment line in bold. And then when you look at the asterisks, I did get an email back addressing all of my questions. For column E1, the 2024 INE, when you look at the percentage rent, they actually included percentage rent from 2023. So when you look at E2, where I reconsted it, I took out that amount, okay? That's for the triple asterisk. That's the point for the triple asterisk. As you follow down, column E2, the reconstruction, and you go down to the admin expense. Notice there's another triple asterisk there. If you look in the comments, they included over 102,000 for expenses for consulting fees for the Langston Boulevard area plan. We do not consider this to be a typical operating annual expense for this property. So that's why that was reconstructed and removed from there. I'm not going to explain all the other ones. I'm going to focus more on the 2024. Now, when we valued this property for January 1, 2025, yes, we knew about the grocer leaving, okay? So that's why I used a below the line discount, okay, for the property. Now, looking at the 2024, I decided to do a test. Okay, so when you look at column F, I actually, that gross potential rent, I actually discounted that rent before, which I found out from Rob, I'm not supposed to do that, but I did it. I discounted the retail rent for the smaller tenants by $4.96. And then for the grocer, I discounted that $3.05. And then I just combined and calculated and did that, but that's how I discounted the rent for that particular property. And then as you follow down, I took an additional adjustment, below the line adjustment, for the excess vacancy of the grocer. And if you'll notice that I made some changes versus January 1, I found out that it's not just the grocer that's vacant. There's also another tenant. So that was factored into column F, the test. So it's 2 tenants that are factored into that. And using the discounted rental rate to develop the rent loss, TI, leasing commission, and the leasing or the TI that I used in the original January 1, that was based on office buildings. Okay, so office buildings are a very different property type. They're different structure versus Giant or sorry, the space that Giant operates, which is almost similar to a warehouse, very different. Okay, so that's why I corrected the TI, the dollar amount used for the TI. As you can see, after testing it, we still came at a higher rate, or I'm sorry, a higher value than the original January 1 assessment. I am open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? No? Okay, Ms. Roskin, if you take a minute to wrap it up then, please.
Thank you. Once again, I want to reiterate that after reviewing the new 2024 information, I decided to run a test, and the gross potential rent that's plugged in there, that's been discounted. And on top of it, we're giving credit for the excess vacancy below the line adjustment. And the expenses, although that the percentage label is incorrect, when you look at the adjusted compared to the expenses used in the reconstructed column, we feel that our, and after looking at all this information, we feel that our original January 1 assessment is correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kim, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Thank you very much. Giant vacated the space in March of 2024. As of 2025, the space was fully vacant. And the owner indicated to us that they don't expect to have a tenant in paying rent until at least midway through calendar year 2026. We would urge the board to take that into consideration when deducting their below the line rent loss figure. We would also ask the board to take into consideration when you take out the consulting fees that Ms. Rosenkind noted from the actual expenses incurred, you still arrive at 18.8% OPEX ratio. And if you apply that if you take that into account with the commercial guidebook rates of 19%, we request an adjustment be made upwards to the expense ratio as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the board. I just will say, I see the numbers. It's hard for me to believe though that with Giant leaving, that the assessment is, I mean, it went up slightly, but is stable with what it was valued at when they were there. Where's everybody on this? Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, I think personally for properties located like this, the cap rate actually is a little high. You don't usually hear me arguing that, but this is such a well-known, well-established, great neighborhood that I think the loss of the giant, if the owner's saying they expect a tenant in mid 26, that's like 9 months away. That tells me that like a lease has probably already been signed, right? You're not going to build out a grocery store or whatever's going in that space in 9 months. If I didn't have a lease signed, I'd say, I don't know if there'll ever be a tenant there, right? So I'm okay with kind of holding firm on pretty much what was last year's value. And then next year we'll see what happens, you know, with this new grocer, whoever's coming into this space. But I think Lori did a good job of kind of breaking it down, and coming up with the value.
Other folks? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, initially I thought that the expenses looked a little bit low because they're using, you know, the same, almost the same number which reported in 2023. So I messed around with that, did a couple tests, but the below the line numbers, you know, were generous. So I think that kind of offsets that. So that's what I think baseball assessment.
Right, Mr. Federer?
Okay, I mean, I did the same. I looked at the expenses, I increased it a little bit to 15.5% on the test, on the department did, and it decreases very little. It goes down to 26,418,300.
I think
That's really close.
your plan below the line, and given the fact that she's basically used the wrong number.
I'll give you that. Somebody want to make a motion then? Mr. Yates?
Confirm the county's number of 26,767,400.
Okay, I have a motion for a second.
Second.
Hey, Mr. Mendez? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at 26,767,400. Thank you both. Okay, that concludes the agenda for today. Does anybody have any other business? Okay, we will stand adjourned here at 10:23 a.m. Reconvene next Tuesday, September 16th, virtually for all the board members at 9 a.m. Thank you.